Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. About the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. While some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
But we soulfully react like we don't just want an action movie. We want to feel uplifted. And Star Wars is an adventure that makes you feel good, you know.
A lot of people are talking about George Lucas now because it is thought and speculated that he might be the buyer or one of the buyers for Lucasfilm. It is also speculated, because it is a rumor coming out of Lucasfilm itself, that it's Saudi Prince Fahad bin Faisal Al Saud, who doesn't have the money. He doesn't have $8 billion, but a group of investors might. What I want to talk about is what I see happening now. We've got people on Facebook basically now attacking George over the prequel trilogy. What they fail to justify in their anger is their opinion. Was it as good as the OT? No. But again, there are different stories. Anakin's story is different than Luke's. Obi-Wan's story is different from Han's. Padme's story is different from Leia's. They're different stories with different characters. The prequels are about how the galaxy got to where it got when we meet Leia being attacked by Vader's ship going to Tatooine, okay? And it's important that we understand that. These are different circumstances, and there are people out there that might not like the writing. I don't understand that. It is, after all, the hero's journey, and if you are a good Star Wars fan and you keep up to date on what it's about, you'll know that this man right here, Joseph Campbell, wrote Hero with a Thousand Faces, and every culture in society has a hero's journey story. They did all the way back to Babylon and even the Akkadian Empire in Sumer. Okay, Islam has Muhammad, Christianity has Jesus Christ, and Judaism has Moses and David. Okay, and George, looking at the way the culture was at the time, he had Dirty Harry, Kojak, not my dog, the TV cop played by Telly Savalas, getting famous for being anti-heroes. And George wanted to bring back the hero. And he also wanted to give people hope. Okay, that is in a nutshell why he did what he did.
Good. It makes me feel like, wow, I want to be a part of that. So that's what I always go back to with Star Wars, is this selfless act and this family dynamic, which is so important to George.
Many fans tear apart the sequel trilogy for ruining the family dynamic. Yet, a lot of these fans, and I'm going to say that quite a few of our YouTube colleagues are prequel haters. That's just what they are. They followed, a lot. Look, if you're a YouTuber long enough, you'll see that critical thinking is lacking. Nobody can form their own opinion. And most people who don't have a similar opinion to somebody with a big YouTube channel, the people that have these opinions that are different will not stand up and say, I disagree with you because this, and this, because they don't want to lose the connection, the friendship, and they don't want to be out on an island. Okay, that's what this is all about. Okay, so we've got a bunch of YouTubers who are quote unquote Star Wars fans, but you look at them and think, are they actually? Because I have heard a few attack the prequel trilogy. Now, the prequel trilogy, again, like I said, is different, but since the family dynamic is so important to George, where did the Skywalker family come from? Why shouldn't we have Anakin's story leading up to A New Hope? Why shouldn't we know how he got to be Darth Vader? Okay, problem I have with the prequel haters, and guess what? If it starts to be a real solid lead that George is either buying it back or is one of the investors helping to buy it back, these people are going to come out of the woodwork. And I would think a lot of the people that are denying that he would ever buy Lucasfilm back either hate the prequel trilogy or in certain black pill blob cases are probably doing this for a favor to people at Lucasfilm. Because if George comes back in any way, shape, or form, the flying monkeys are gone. They're gone, okay? And that is what's going on here. And so there's this really weird love-hate relationship between George Lucas and the fans because of it, okay? Because of the prequels, and what's really interesting is that sequel trilogy fans love to use prequel bashing to defend the sequels. And it's like, but wait, the prequels did not ruin our childhood because they didn't hurt fundamentally what Star Wars is about.
So important to the foundation of Star Wars. That's in us. And what I like about it is it is really saying there is a lot of hope out there, that we fundamentally want to be good people, that we can all be driven to do terrible things, but that we can persevere through selfless action. So George has this hopeful story. And it's
George approached the prequels, he wanted to write Anakin's story. Little foundling kid with massive force power, the chosen one, and talk about his rise and fall. And it's actually, now when I think about it, extremely fundamental to what Star Wars is all about. And if we don't understand that, we don't understand what it's all about. It's the hero's journey. It's the family dynamic, the Skywalker saga, and it's about hope. Okay. Look at what the original trilogy is about. A bunch of scruffy looking, off the wall characters from all across the galaxy with a hodgepodge fleet defeat a huge, mechanized, powerful empire that was holding everything in the galaxy under its thumb. Okay, Leia represents the hope. Luke represents the hope. Han represents the coming back to hope.
this hopeful story, and it's something that he's reiterated most times I've seen him, after we've been making things without him, is remember to make these stories hopeful. Remember to give that to kids because they really need it. And so
Even
that's
at
just
the
something to
end
keep
of
in mind.
Revenge of the Sith, when you see the babies, the twins, Luke and Leia being taken out, Leia to Bail and Breha Organa, Luke being carried to Owen and Beru Lars, you hear the beginning of the theme to the original trilogy. You hear Leia's theme, and then you hear Luke's theme. That's where hope starts, right there. And that's what George wanted to give people. Now look, people who'd seen the original trilogy knew what was going to happen. But still, having those musical notes hitting the right beat at the right time in the movie gave people the idea that there's still hope for even Anakin. Even Padme says, before she dies, there is still hope in him. I know this. Padme still believes. Okay, where does Luke get his hope? From Padme. Okay, where does Leia get her strength and hope? From Padme. Okay, Padme represents, even in her death, what she leaves to her children represents the essence of why Anakin loved her, because she gave him hope. All right, and when the fandom is so black-pilled and so despairing and so nihilistic that they can't even be bothered to critically analyze business, stock prices, debt to assets, because they've been so beaten down. And not just by Lucasfilm's flying monkeys, but by YouTubers themselves. There is still hope there. This can be turned around. Anybody saying 1,000% this will never happen isn't doing the fandom a favor, and he's not helping anybody, okay? They're not doing what they should be doing, all right, which is decent. I mean, you know, it's looking at Disney through the lens of business. It's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. It's a circle jerk with a bunch of idiots standing around. If you are a Star Wars fan, you know the fundamentals of the story, and the last one is hope. No matter how bad it gets, you know, at the end of The Empire Strikes Back, when Leia sees the Slave One fly off with Han, there's hope. I didn't walk out of there brokenhearted like I did walk out of TFA brokenhearted, in shock. I walked out of The Empire Strikes Back knowing that she was going to figure out how to get him back. And she and Luke and Lando did, okay? And I knew that because George wanted you to be hopeful at the end. Okay, is everything black? Well, if you start thinking about it, no, it's not. There's always something to look to. All right, what's the next chapter? What do these three people do to get their friend back? Okay, hope. What has to happen, and who has to show up to figure out what's going on at Lucasfilm and fix it? Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, George Lucas? Does Disney sell Lucasfilm? Does Disney keep it and just outright fire everybody but Filoni and Favreau and Doug Chiang and Leland Chee, and keeps everybody from ILM and VFX? I don't know. But there's hope. Why? Because the fundamentals for Disney's financial health are not good. Because Iger has put basically everything on the table with Indiana Jones, so Kennedy looks stupid. He embarrassed her on purpose. Okay. And despite the black pill blobs, there's hope even from Iger. Okay. That's what George taught you. Okay. These are life's lessons. Why go through the world listening to people that have no belief in anything, who are nihilistic, and who are purposely dragging you down to their level? Okay. Why? You know, look, I have a friend who's a priest in Nigeria, Father Lucas, and his parish has no money. He's basically has to do some sort of fundraising online so he can help provide foodstuffs to the poor of his village. But I've never seen anybody more hopeful in my life. And yet we have a bunch of spoiled brat babies who say they love Star Wars, and yet they don't have any hope. And when you say things are getting better, they shoot you down because they don't want to hear it. They're happier being lost sheep, nihilistic, and living in a black mood than they are seeing things get better. This is not what George wanted us to walk away from Star Wars with. And if he comes back, a lot of these people will move the goalpost back and attack him, because you'll start to peel back the onion and realize they hated the prequels too. Okay? This isn't just not wanting George back has almost nothing to do now with him not coming back because he doesn't want her, being old, blah, blah, blah. Those are rationalizations. Most of these people don't want him back because they don't like the prequels, and they still feel like their childhood got ruined. But I don't see how that happened, since Luke and Leia and Han were not part of the prequel story. Okay, so George Lucas ruined my childhood is bullshit. Okay, but this is where we are. I guarantee you, you are going to see a lot of people show their ugly faces if this does happen. And even if George is invited back to Lucasfilm as a consultant and has last say on everything, they're going to go nuts. Okay, this is Steph, signing out. I'll see you around the galaxy.